Hey, gang. The summer for so many of us will be focused on rest, relationships, and recreation or recreation. And what I like to do is to give you like a lunchtime video for thinking about how to live and lead out of rest and relationships for recreation and recreation. At first, I want to talk about like your personal and group capacity. There's a correlation between your personal capacity and the group that you're a part of, your missional community, your team, the people that you work with, your personal capacity and the group's capacity. There's a correlation between these two. And a big part of that is even outlined in Scripture in talking about like the capacity of a group of people. And this is Paul writing to the church in Ephesus. Our missional community right now is actually going through the book of Ephesians. And this morning, Lynn and I read through Ephesians chapter 4. But if you read through the whole entire chapter, Paul's really talking about how the body works together. Individual parts are working to do their thing, and it increases what the entire body can do to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. Paul says we are to grow up in every way into Him who is the head. And the church is the body, obviously, building itself up in love. So again, there's a correlation between your individual role, your personal capacity, and what the larger group is doing. So here's a way to think about like increasing the capacity of individuals in a group. Maybe you think about this X and Y axis. So the Y axis represents those who empower you, those who are cheering you on, those who are helping you, equipping you, your leadership, and then there are those who you are empowering, those that you're discipling, those that you're spending time with. And that's the x-axis. So if you think about this, if you're at the corner, you can do so much in terms of empowering other people. But as other people empower you, that actually increases your capacity as you empower other people, and there is a greater growth of influence and capacity. So that's kind of like the big picture of what this looks like. But beyond that, beyond just thinking about increasing capacity, because you're probably, you're trying to start off your career, you're starting off your family, and you're kind of like at the end of your capacity right now. Let's talk about what really is most helpful to people, and that is like their modality, their bent in leadership. Now, leadership's a scary word for a lot of people because you might not necessarily think that you're a leader, but leadership is kind of like, doing something where others depend on you or they follow you. And so you do that in your job, in the household, in your roommate's life. Like you have some form of leadership, but you have a modality, your default mode. You have a bent, kind of like the way that you do it differently than others. And what was helpful to me in my own personal journey in finding my leadership bent was reading a book by a gentleman named Bobby Clinton. And this comes from a workbook that he developed called Strategic Concepts that Clarify a Focused Life. But he says leaders must make decisions about life and ministry which flow from their understanding of who God is, how God has made them to be, and for what God is shaping them. These decisions will lead them to effective, purposeful lives, which in retrospect will be seen to have been focused lives. But it is not a self-seeking, individualistic choice of life, but a seeking of what a sovereign God is doing. His purposes, all of the focused life thinking must be done in light of a strong understanding of the sovereignty of God. So the way that you lead, the way that you live your life was designed by God. And it's based on not like what you think others think you should do, but it's based on this understanding that God is in control. He created you with a certain capacity, certain kind of proclivity, certain bent, certain modality, and you're going to live within and to the maximum potential of that particular design because God is sovereign. God's in charge. He meant for you to lead in a certain way. And so the question is, instead of managing just your time and your schedule, it's how do I manage my energy and passion? Remember, the summer for many of us is about rest, relationships for the purpose of recreation. So instead of just managing our calendar, how do I manage energy and passion? And I want to give you 3 crucial leadership modalities in kingdom ministry. So whenever you're going to do something for God, in your workplace, in your missional community, in your neighborhood, and you want to lead out of who God made you to be, your modality, what are the three spheres that you should look at? Number one is vision. God gave certain groups of individuals this ability to have to receive and communicate biblical kingdom objectives. So they just know, like, okay, in this moment, like, this is what we really need to do, and this is how, and they know how to cast that vision to other people. There are those who have been God-given, gifts and talents around building relationships. They're good at meaningfully relating and nurturing people in Christian fellowship. And so they know how to bring people in. They know how to make people feel included. They're really good at telling the group that, hey, we aren't really focusing on each other right now. We need to really do that. And then there are those who are really good at execution. They just get things done. They're good at responding to the vision in obedience to Jesus, and then getting others to do the same as well. And so if you think about a person's life, a leader's life, it's the intersection of these three things. And you can't do them for a long time, like all of them full speed. Like if you were to do vision, relationship, execution, if you did them really, really well, which sometimes you have to do, but if you went in the direction of vision and relationship and execution all the time, you would burn out. Like, this is a good formula for burning out. But if you led in your modality or your sweet spot or the way that God designed you to be, then you're going to be able to do that longer. Because remember, it's about energy and passion and not just about time and schedules. So most of us, we kind of lead out of the intersection of one or two of these. And so, as a matter of fact, one usually leverages the other. So if you're a visionary relational person, usually your vision leverages your relationships, or vice versa, your relationships leverage your vision. And so that's where most of us kind of comfortably lead, is in the intersection of one or two of these. But if you do all three of them for a long time, you burn out. I think you understand that. So what is a leadership bent? It is your leadership bent is a person's leadership modality, or how God's made you to be, your default mode, and your VRE mix, vision, relationship, execution mix, where they effectively lead without quickly exhausting themselves. And then note this, and also without quickly exhausting those they lead. This is your bent. When you lead out of your natural modality, you will exhaust yourself less, and you will exhaust others less. It is an effective use of your God-given energy. So let me give you a grid to kind of think through, your VRE mix. The features of those who are, vision and relationally oriented tend to be this leader thinks most about the future potential of the kingdom community and what God desires for it. And they're able to cast vision, inspiring others to want the same. People feel ownership over the mission after being with this leader. So somebody who tends to lead, if you're this type of leader, people come around and oh yeah, I really want to be a part of what God's given you the vision to do. And they feel a sense of ownership over it, and they feel included into that vision. Those who are bent towards execution and vision, this leader thinks most about how to solve the problems that hinder kingdom growth. They understand the big picture and enjoy strategizing how to get from here to there. They have processes. We have processes and institutions because of these kinds of leaders. So they might not feel like the primary vision caster, but they're like, okay, I understand it. Let's get it done. I totally understand what you're doing, what you're saying, and I'm ready to hit the ground running, and let's do this thing. And the reason why things happen and the reason why things scale is because of folks like you, the execution visionary types. And then those who have relational execution gifts or pairings are leaders that think most about seeing individuals contribute and to grow according to their gifts. So they're thinking about man, I really want to help this person grow and contribute. They invest in the potential of individuals and groups through coaching. People feel mentored and personally led by these leaders. And so somebody who is relationally and execution gifted in terms of how they lead, people feel included, people tend to grow under their leadership, people tend to know themselves better, and they feel understood and seen. So again, there is no clean particular categorization of these things, but just to give you an idea of what would be your VRE mix, your leadership modality. What's your leadership bent? Am I vision relationally oriented, execution vision oriented, or relationally and execution oriented? Here's some ways to kind of think about the positive perception. So what people see when they think about you. If you're a vision relational person, people say you're a good leader because I feel inspired to think about the future. You're a really good leader, and it just makes me want to go into the future. Those who are execution vision oriented, people say you're a good leader because I feel that a lot of things are getting done and we're growing. Like, great job, we're getting things done. Love being around you. Those who are relationship execution oriented are often said of being a good leader because I feel cared for and you directly impact my personal growth. And I would say largely there are seasons where we really need this kind of leadership because people need to feel nurtured before they can be pushed into ministry or mission. But there's also negative, perceptions of these leadership types as well. Oftentimes people will say, you're a bad leader because I feel like you talk about doing great things, but they never get done. So for visionary relational people, like you're always bringing us into rooms talking about vision, but like nothing gets done. And that's often the bad perception. For those who are execution vision oriented, they'll often say, oh, you're a bad leader because I feel like all you want is growth and you don't care about people. And we're so exhausted because we just keep doing all this activity. So what's the point of growing wide when we don't grow deep? And then those who are relationship execution oriented, oftentimes people say you're a bad leader because I feel like we're always doing the same things and nothing changes. So yeah, we get together. Yes, we're doing a lot of activity, but what's the point? Where are we going with this? And so that tends to be the negative perception. Now there's positive emotions, negative emotions. You kind of get the idea. I'll go through this quickly. Those who are around vision relationship, they feel excited. Those who are around execution vision leaders feel prepared. Those who are around relationship execution type leaders feel included. The negative emotion is people feel stuck sometimes when they're around vision relationship oriented people because they just don't know the strategy to get there. People feel lonely sometimes around execution vision oriented because they're doing a lot of things, they're accomplishing a lot of things, but they're saying, who are we again? And do I really matter, or am I just a cog in this wheel? And then those who are relationship execution oriented sometimes feel burned out because we're always getting together, we're always doing things, but we just don't understand why. And they feel burned out oftentimes. Points of frustration, just to kind of get us thinking through, how people experience the leadership here. Is people often feel like for vision relationship type oriented leaders that they can't find a way to unlock people's potential. That man, I know I have a vision and I know God's given me people to really be a part of this vision. I don't know how to get them to do things. Those who are execution vision oriented can't find the right people to get things done. And so part of it is because they don't have the relational skills. Those who have relationship execution gifts can't motivate people to innovate and create. So they know how to do social things, but how do we move the ball forward? They have a hard time. So what you need to do for yourself, and you think about, as you're thinking about the next 2-3 months, how do I continue to engage in leadership? You think about, okay, how do I bring somebody who can help fill some deficiencies? So for those who are vision relationship oriented, we need some more execution vision people to come into the leadership structure. And so those who know how to get things done and those who understand the vision. If you're a leader that's execution vision oriented, it's very helpful to bring somebody who is more relationally driven. They also want to get things done, but they're relationally driven, and they can kind of lean into your vision gifts. And then those who are relationship execution oriented, you're social, you're bubbly, people love being around you, but you don't know where you're going. Continue to work with those who have vision relationship gifts. They celebrate the value of relationship, but they also can help move the conversation forward. Coming back to this picture, and this is where I want to end our time, is for many of us, the summer is about rest, relationships, and recreation. And I pray and hope that during the summertime, that as you're spending time with people, that it'll energize you, it'll give you vision, and so that as we move forward in this next season, that you can hear the Father and know exactly what it is that you need to do, so that we can do that for a sustained time without experiencing the burnout that oftentimes we can feel when we're having to operate in so many directions at the same time. So praying for our time, praying out of Ephesians 4, that God would build us up to the full measure of Jesus, and that he would do it in love, because he's doing it